Having grown up playing Pokémon Red, when the Hoenn region was introduced, I naturally went for Pokémon Ruby. Like every generation, there are several Pokémon exclusive to that game that simply do not exist in Sapphire. Some are great, like Zangoose, and others are there too. For this video, I want to play through Pokémon Ruby using only the version exclusives. If you like this idea, be sure to check out the Sapphire video too, after finishing this one. Before we begin, which of the Ruby exclusive Mons is your favorite? I choose Trico to give May a type advantage, once I get a usable Pokemon. Trico defeats her Torchic, and after getting Pokeballs, it's time to get the real starter, Seedot. With Trico gone, the run officially begins. This is a bit of a problem though. His only damaging move is Bide, which objectively is not great. I give it a go against the level 3 Zigzagoon, and we white out against the very first wild Pokemon. But I refuse to get discouraged. I can try again against another wild Pokemon, this time a level 2 Zigzagoon. Surely we can win this one, right? Unfortunately, we can't. And don't call me Shirley. Our first taste of victory comes as Seedot defeats a level 2 Pooch, getting enough experience to gain 1/3 of a level up. That was a bit pathetic. I had hoped for more. 2 dead Pokemon later, he gets to level 4, which changes basically nothing because he still sucks. At level 5, I try to pass youngster Calvin and his equally leveled Zigzagoon, but thanks to his frequent use of Growl, Bide just doesn't work out. That is eerily reminiscent of the start to my Sapphire only run. Seedot and Lotad don't start off as powerhouses. Several whiteouts later, at level 7, Seedot learns a new and quite useful move for the future. Growth does absolutely nothing at this moment. I would have settled for almost anything here, even Tackle would have been better. He does get Nature Power at level 13. There is no way I'm waiting that long. Several losses and trainer avoidances later, I believe that Seedot is strong enough to defeat this Magma Grunt's dog. And he does. Quite well, actually. With that Grunt gone, finally Seedot can learn a useful attacking move, Bullet Seed. Now, we actually have a chance against Roxanne. Just for fun, Seedot starts with a Growth against her Geodude before Bullet Seeding. Nosepass takes a bit longer, but doesn't stand a chance. And for twice leveling up, Seedot evolves immediately after the battle into the Nuzlocke namesake, which may not have been a great move, more on that later. But if you've watched my struggle thus far, you might as well subscribe to the channel to get more awesome Pokemon content like this. Also, leave a like if you feel so inclined. Jumping ahead to Granite Cave, we find the second Ruby exclusive Mon, Mawile, who becomes a much better Pokemon once she's Fairy type in Generation 6. And her Mega Evolution ain't too shabby either. For now though, she's not that great, especially because there's an issue with my current team. They are both weak to fighting, just in time for the fighting type gym. I could have stopped Nuzleaf from evolving a bit earlier, preventing him from becoming a dark type, but I figured the extra speed and special attack made up for the gained fighting weakness. Mawile begins by lowering Machopp's special defense with fake tears. She then bites Machopp, hoping for a flinch or two, but it's not enough for her to win. Nuzleaf then grows on a heal and Bullet Seeds a couple of times. I could still win this with a really good Bullet Seed hit. So naturally, Nuzleaf gets the minimum possible number of hits twice in a row and promptly dies. He got so used to dying as a little seed, it's a hard habit to break. Anyway, I lost, and a second time too. On the third try, I swapped to Nuzleaf on a Machop heal, and thanks to a fake Tears Bullet Seed, could have taken him out. I'm just really unlucky with those Bullet Seed hits. When Machop does fall, I pivot back to Mawile to Intimidate and hopefully have time for a fake Tears. Or not. Still, between Fake Out, Growth, and some not horrible Bullet Seeds, I do manage to beat Brawly after several rough tries. I thought things would be easier after evolving Seedot, but apparently not just yet. At least he's still better than May's Wailmer, but that's not saying much. Combusken is still a big issue, and Nuzleaf falls after a few cuts. But he did enough damage for Mawile to Vice Grip the Fire Chicken. Droomish does paralyze her, but is still taken down. Now that we've had an easy battle, it's time for another tough one. Without a Mudkip, Watson is always one of the tougher Hoenn gym leaders in my opinion, and today proves no different. My first plan is to fake Tears Bite the Magnemite, again hoping for some flinches, but it does not end up working and Mawile is quickly defeated. Nuzleaf finishes off the Mite, and thanks to some growths defeats the Orb too. but Magneton is just too strong. And more importantly, I continue to get 2-hit bullet seeds, meaning I lose again. I wanted to avoid wasting move spaces on HMs, but it looks like I need to rely on Rock Smash here. It may be weak, but at least it's super effective for 2/3 of Watson's team, and it can lower defense. Then again, Mawile could just lose to Magnemite. Then Nuzleaf is promptly exploded by the orb. After yet another loss, I decide to do some training, though we're already over-leveled. Those few extra levels allow Nuzleaf with a bit of luck and several defense drops to defeat Magneton and Watson once and for all. So maybe now things will be smoother? Especially since the third badge opens up the world just enough for our next 2 encounters. The first being a Zangoose, a very solid Pokemon. Guts would make him even better, but still, Swords Dance is nothing to complain about. I also get a Sunstone, but the Pokemon version. I like him quite a bit less, to be honest, but he should be useful in the next few battles at least. I reach the top of a volcano just in time to learn about Maxie's plan to expand the land so Pokemon can evolve. He obviously doesn't realize there are more water types than any other single type of Pokemon, so they can evolve easily enough with water. Either way, as happens with anything political, he's sure he's right and won't listen to reason. I try to knock some sense into him with a Swords Dancing Zangoose, but a single sand attack is all Maxie needs to render her useless. Not a great debut there, not a goose. Between Fake Out and Bullet Seed, Nuzleaf avoids his friend's fate. Sunstone gets camera up down to the red before being knocked out, meaning Nuzleaf needs to make a return to also get knocked out. Alright, all down to you, Mawile. After a heal, a Vice Grip Bite Flinch combo lets her survive unscathed and unembered most importantly. Golbat then stands no chance, and that battle was not as easy as I had hoped, even though I have 4 Pokemon. Why does this game hate me so much? Alright Flannery, and your stupid fire slugs. Let's just do this. The first slug is crushed with 2 rocks, but does manage to poison Solrock first. Too bad I gave it a Cherry Berry. The second slug similarly falls, bringing out the Fire Turtle. Sunstone is slammed and overheated, but does some decent damage first. To prevent Flannery from healing, Zangoose starts with a Swords Dance, followed by a Slash, knocking it right out. Finally, the easiest major battle we've had since Roxanne. Maybe now we're turning over a new Nuzleaf. Only one way to find out, trying to beat up my dad. Expecting a yawn from slacking, Zangoose first Swords Dances, and second Swords Dances again. She wakes up from a tiny nap to 1-hit KO with a crit slash. But the second slacking outspeeds getting his own 1-hit KO. My dad ends up being an idiot, not seeing a guaranteed KO with Facade, opting to Focus Punch my Leaf instead. The problem is, that move sucks. All Nuzleaf needs to do is Rock Smash a million times, lowering Slacking's defense and breaking his focus. Vigoroth proves to be quite a bit smarter, easily defeating the Leaf. Solrock tries an Overheat, doing a pathetic amount of damage. What the heck was that? Naturally, it dies next. Being a Still type, Mawile resists anything Vigoroth can dish out, winning in a few more hits. I did get down to my last Mon, but at least I won first try. That's still an improvement. One easily defeated Magma admin later, it's time for another simple rival battle. At least, that's what I thought. Till Wailmer went ahead and confused basically my whole team with Water Pulses. What's going on here? That has a 20% chance to confuse, not 100. Thanks to that, Nuzleaf, even being a grass type, is unable to defeat the water type Whale. And the rain boost didn't help, by the way. Stupid little whale. Zangoose is then double kicked by the Fire Chicken. Now you might have noticed that 3 of my team members are still at a disadvantage to her Fire starter, which is why I chose Trico. I use Mawile to intimidate, and then she knocks it out. Though a Leech Seed from Shroomish forces her to swap. Solrock tries another Overheat, but being in the rain, it's still quite pathetic. The problem is, with that special attack drop, now Confusion also sucks. This is why you need to prepare before starting battles. This should not be so hard. One more swap back to Mawile does finally do it. What am I even supposed to do with this HM anyway? None of my guys can fly. Either way, this leads me to Winona. Goose returns Swellow a few times, and does the same thing to Pelipper. She tries to lower Skarmory's defense with Crush Claw, but to no avail. That's fine. Sunstone's Overheat is finally able to do something. About time too. Altaria is then rock thrown to death, no problem. On my way to Lily Cove, there is a problem when I encounter this Milotic having trainer. I don't think anything of it until she proceeds to water pulse my entire team, making me lose to a literal nobody. That was unexpected. I quickly get my revenge with a Swords Dancing Goose, but not even that can change the past. I know what happened, and my confidence is now wrecked. Thanks a lot, Jennifer. At least I can get a much more useful grass move for Almost Tree. No more 2-hit bullet seeds for me. In Lily Cove, there is one final rival battle. Thanks to an endeavor, Sunstone barely manages to defeat her Swellow. Nuzleaf shows off his new move on Wailmer, but it's still not enough to defeat Combusken. Zangoose returns it, and the Shroomish too, defeating her once and for all. After beating Tabitha 2, Team Magma, who are well known for their water expertise, escape via a submarine they stole literal minutes ago. I guess manning a sub is easier than it seems. Must be, if those bozos can do it. Speaking of, these twin bozos are going down. Since Solrock knows Flamethrower, my Grass and Steelmon team up on it first. Of course, that didn't stop Nuzleaf from getting burned. Solrock does fall, and Lunatone keeps calm minding, so Giga Drain and Crunch don't do nearly enough. Nuzleaf falls to the burn, and Mawile to a super-powered Psychic. We still win though, with my remaining 2 Pokemon. This brings us to Groudon's secret underwater cave, cause that makes sense. Both Maxie and I want this legendary Mon, it is a Ruby exclusive after all, so winner gets to catch him. Thanks to a swagger, Mawile eventually manages to defeat Mightyena, getting earthquaked in the process. But Zangoose easily mops up the rest of his team with no trouble. Of course, that doesn't stop Maxie from trying to capture Groudon, waking him up and causing a major Hoenn-wide drought. Before stopping the sunlight, I decide now is a good time to evolve Nuzleaf. He's waited for long enough. He gets Groudon's HP down low, so that a few Ultra Balls later, that guy is mine, and a very welcome addition to the team. As he is a Ruby exclusive, I have no problem using him in battle, but to prevent things from being too easy, I will only use him after the rest of my team is dead. That seems like a fair trade-off. I get the Solar Beam TM, with that new move, and Sunny Day 2, Shiftry activates Chlorophyll, knocking out 4 of Wallace's Pokemon with relative ease. Giga Drain keeps him alive against Seeking, and then Whiscash obviously can't stand up to another Giga Drain. 8th badge, easy peasy, no Groudon needed. For the first time in this entire video, I need to acknowledge Little Wally's existence. He hasn't really been relevant up to this point. Heck, he's barely relevant now. His Altaria is Rock Slid, and Roselia is double overheated. Delcatty puts Mawile to sleep, but that only works for so long. Mawile is Thunderbolted, and Sunstone is too, thanks to a missed overheat. But that's fine, because Almost Tree Sunny Days and Solar Beams the Magnet, and Gardevoir too. Of course the sun wears off, and he resorts to Feint Attack eventually. That's no problem. A few levels later, it's time to start this Elite Four run. I really wanted Zangoose to Swords Dance and blow through Sydney's team, but Sand Attack makes that mighty unlikely. Instead, Mawile has to defeat this Mightyena. She is eaten by a shark, allowing Zangoose to return without the lowered attack from Intimidate. It turns out, she didn't even need a Swords Dance to dominate here. Against Phoebe's ghosts, Mawile starts by lowering Dusclop's special defense with Fake Tears. She heals a confusion and crunches the ghost to death. The higher level Dusclops also loses some defense as I swap into Lunatone on an Earthquake. A few rock slides later, I swap around a bit, ultimately knocking it out with Crunch. Mawile then falls, allowing Zangoose to Shadow Ball Bayonet. Since Sableye isn't weak to the physical ghost move, Nadagoose Swords Dances first. She's staying somewhat healthy, by the way, thanks to a Shell Bell. Now we're on to Ice Lady Glacia. It doesn't go well. I managed to lose all of my Mons besides Groudon against her final Pokemon, Walrein. As powerful as Groudon is, an 8 level higher Walrein is simply more effective. So I lose. I chose to not be cheap the first time around, and look how that turned out. This time, I don't care anymore, I just want to win. With a single Swords Dance, Nadagoose returns all of her Pokemon. I gave her a Brick Break too, but with Stab, return is slightly more powerful. Walrein does survive the hit, but thanks to Shell Bell healing, Nadagoose knocks her out too. You brought that on yourself, Ice Lady. Let's see if I have to be cheap with Drake too. I lead with Mawile and her crappy special attack. Even so, 2 Ice Beams knock out Shelgon. She even manages to defeat the first Flygon too, before being flamethrowered by the second. Nadagoose also knows Ice Beam, which is only slightly more powerful than Mawile's, but it's nothing to write home about. The second Flygon and even Altaria are knocked out in 2 hits each, bringing us to Salamence. Between another Ice Beam and a crunch from Solrock, the Flying Dragon wasn't nearly as scary as I thought. The only problem is now we have to fight Steven, who is an objectively harder champion than Emerald's Wallace. Mawile can learn Flamethrower, but once again we're at the whims of her crappy special attack. A few hits and she does knock out Skarmory. I pivot to Solrock to avoid Claydol's Earthquake, and just for funsies, try out a Solar Beam. Steven not only uses Light Screen, but also swaps to Metagross, who tanks the 120 power Grass move like the Steel-type tank he is. Sunstone never stood a chance. Nor does Shiftry or Mawile. At least Zangoose does some damage as the Light Screen wears off. Alright, time for Groudon again. Let's see if he can improve his 0% success rate. Metagross falls to Earthquake, as does the giant Aggron. Things are looking good, but Cradily survives the hit quite easily, healing almost all of that damage with a Giga Drain, which promptly takes out Groudon in 1 more hit. Well, that was not great, but I think I know the reason why I lost. I forgot to use my stock of rare candies. I'm sure that 1 extra level or 2 for each Pokemon will make a giant difference. Mawile beat Skarmory even faster this time, immediately starting with Fake Tears. Again, Solrock avoids an Earthquake, but this time I then pivot to Zangoose. She Swords Dances, breaks Reflect with a Brick Break, and then returns. Aggron is also Brick Breaked, Cradily too, and Armaldo, though he takes 2 hits. Clearly, Metagross will not be so easy. Zangoose uses Flamethrower instead, hoping for a lucky burn, to no avail. Metagross then proceeds to destroy my team once again. Shiftry tries and technically succeeds in Solar Beaming, but it's not much better than Solrock's was. I use Sunny Day actually for Solrock to overheat Metagross if Meteor Mash had missed, which it didn't. Okay, we're back to Groudon again. But this time Metagross is the only Pokemon left, so a single Earthquake defeats Steven's last Pokemon as I officially beat Pokémon Ruby using only the Ruby exclusives. But I can't end the video without recognizing the post-game exclusive Latios, who is objectively cooler than Sapphire's Latias, so I'm glad as a kid I picked the right version. I feel like beating Ruby with these exclusives was actually harder than Sapphire, but what do you think? If you've watched them both, let me know which one you think was a smoother video. There are plenty of whiteouts in this one, that's for sure. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next region.